Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, Chapter 13, How to Turn Crisis into a Creative Opportunity. What is the worst that can possibly happen? Many people have a tendency to magnify out of all proportion the potential penalty or failure against which the crisis holds. We use our imaginations against ourselves and make mountains out of molehills. Or else we do not use our imagination at all to see what the situation really holds, but habitually and unthinkingly react as if every simple opportunity or threat were life or death matter. If you face a real crisis, you need a lot of excitement. The excitement can be used to take good advantage of the crisis situation. However, if you overestimate the danger or difficulty, if you react to information that is faulty, distorted, or unrealistic, you are likely to call up much more excitement than the occasion calls for. Because the real threat is much less than you had estimated, all this excitement cannot be used appropriately. It cannot be gotten rid of through creative action. Therefore, it remains inside of you, bottled up as the jitters. A big excess of emotional excitement can harm rather than help performance, simply because it is inappropriate. Philosopher and mathematician Bertrand Russell tells of a technique which he used on himself to good advantage in toning down excessive excitement. When some misfortune threatens, consider seriously and deliberately what is the very worst that could possibly happen. Having looked into this possible misfortune in the face, give yourself sound reasons for thinking that after all it would be no such terrible disaster. Such reasons always exist, since at the worst, nothing that happens to oneself has any cosmic importance. When you have looked for some time steadily at the worst possibility and have said to yourself with real conviction, well, after all, that would not matter so very much, you will find that your worry diminishes to quite an extraordinary extent. It may be necessary to repeat the process a few times, but in the end, if you have shirked nothing in facing the worst possible issue, you will find that your worry disappears altogether and is replaced by a kind of exhilaration. Bertrand Russell, The Conquest of Happiness. How Carlyle found courage. Carlyle has testified that the same method changed his outlook from an everlasting no to an everlasting yea. He was in a period of deep spiritual despair. My lodestars were blotted out. In that canopy of grim fire shone no star. The universe was one huge, dead, immeasurable steam machine rolling on in its dead indifference to grind me from limb to limb. Then, in the midst of this spiritual bankruptcy, came a new way of life. And I asked myself, what art thou afraid of? Wherefore, like a coward, dost thou forever pip and whimper, and go cowering and trembling? Despicable biped, what is the sum total of the worst that lies before thee? Death? Well, death, and say the pangs of Tophet too, and all that the devil and man may, will, or can do against thee? Hast thou not a heart? Canst thou not suffer, whatso it be? And as the child of freedom, thou outcast, trample Tophet itself under thy feet. While it consumes thee, let it come, then, I will meet and defy it. And as I so thought, there rushed a steam of fire over my whole soul, and I shook base fear away from me forever. I was strong, of unknown strength, a spirit, almost a god. Ever from that time, the temper of my misery was changed. Not fear or whining sorrow was it, but indignation and grim, fire-eyed defiance. Carlyle, Sartor Resartus. Russell and Carlyle are telling us that we can maintain an aggressive, goal-oriented, self-determining attitude even in the presence of real and serious threats and dangers. Mountain climbing over molehills. Most of us, however, allow ourselves to be thrown off course by very minor and even imaginary threats, which we insist upon interpreting as life or death or do or die situations. Someone has said that the greatest cause of ulcers is mountain climbing over molehills. A salesman calling upon an important prospect may act as if it were a matter of life or death. A debutante facing her first ball may act as if she were going on trial for her life. Many people are going to be interviewed about a job, act as if they're scared to death, and so on. Perhaps this life or death feeling that many people experience in any crisis situation is a heritage from our dim and distant past, when failure to primitive man usually was synonymous with death. Regardless of its origin, however, experience of numerous patients has shown that it can be cured by calmly and rationally analyzing the situation. Ask yourself, what is the worst that could possibly happen if I fail? Rather than responding automatically, blindly, and irrationally. What have you got to lose? Close scrutiny will show that the most of these everyday so-called crisis situations are not life or death matters at all, but opportunities to advance or stay where you are. For example, what is the worst that can happen to the salesman? He will either get an order and come out better off than he was, or he will not get the order and be no worse off than he made before he made the call. The applicant will either get the job or not get it. If he fails to get it, he will be in the same position as before he asked. About the worst that could happen to the debutante is that she will remain as she was before the ball, relatively unknown, and create no great stir in social circles. Few people realize just how potent such a simple change of attitude can be. One salesman I know doubled his income after he was able to change his attitude from scary and panicky. Everything depends on this outlook to the attitude, I have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Walter Pidgeon, the actor, has told how his first public performance was a complete flop. He was literally scared to death. However, between acts, he reasoned with himself that he had already failed, therefore he had nothing to lose. That if he gave up acting altogether, he would be a complete failure as an actor, and therefore he really had nothing to worry about going back on. He went out in the second act, relaxed and confident, and made a big hit. Remember, above all, that the key to any crisis situation is you. Practice and learn the simple techniques of this chapter, and you, like hundreds of others before you, can learn to make crisis work for you, and by making crisis a creative opportunity.